$7. That is all that stood between a broken man and the cold, hard pavement of total obscurity. Imagine standing in a cramped, musty apartment, smelling the stale air of failure, looking down at a palm that held nothing but a $5 bill, a single, and some loose change. At that moment, the world didn't care about Dwayne Johnson. The NFL didn't want him. The Canadian Football League had just tossed him aside like yesterday's trash. He was a giant of a man with a microscopic future, staring into an abyss that has swallowed millions of dreamers whole. But what if I told you that the very drive that pulled him out of that gutter, the insatiable, borderline obsessive need to never be broke again, is the exact same monster that is currently tearing his legacy apart? We are witnessing the slow-motion car crash of a global icon, a man who conquered the ring and the box office only to realize that the higher you climb, the more the wind wants to knock you off the mountain. This isn't just a career retrospective, this is a postmortem of an empire. Before we go any deeper into the darkness of how the most electrifying man in sports entertainment became Hollywood's most scrutinized ego, I want to take a second to talk to you, the SLAMZONE family. We put hundreds of hours into researching these stories, digging through the archives to bring you the truth behind the curtain. It's a labor of love, but it's a tough road. If you've ever felt like an underdog, if you've ever had $7 in your pocket and a dream in your heart, then you know why we do this. Please, if you find value in these breakdowns, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about your favorite rock moment, and ring that notification bell. It truly means the world to us and helps us keep this family growing. We're in this together. Now, let's take it back to where the sweat hits the canvas and the roar of the crowd becomes a physical weight. The year is 1996. Madison Square Garden. The Mecca. The air is thick with the scent of popcorn, cheap beer, and anticipation. Out comes a kid with a fountain of curly hair, wearing streamers that looked like they belonged in a tropical parade, and a smile that felt just a little too forced. Rocky Maivia. He was the blue chipper, the third-generation prodigy being shoved down the throats of a New York crowd that valued grit over pedigree. You can feel the tension in that building. Every time he lands a dropkick, every time he hits a shoulder tackle, the cheers are thinly veiled masks for the resentment bubbling underneath. He's winning, he's getting the big push, but he's losing the war of perception. Flash forward just a few months to WrestleMania 13 in Chicago. The lights are blinding, the heat of the pyrotechnics is still hanging in the air, and the atmosphere is toxic. 20,000 people aren't just cheering for the opponent, they are chanting viciously, rhythmically, "Rocky sucks." Imagine being 25 years old, standing in the center of that ring, the Intercontinental title around your waist, and hearing a literal ocean of human beings telling you that they hate your guts. Every punch he throws feels heavy. Every time he looks at the camera, you can see the flicker of "what did I do wrong" behind his eyes. It was soul-crushing. It was the kind of rejection that would break a normal man, sending them back to those trailer parks and cramped apartments forever. He was a hero that nobody wanted, a good guy who felt like a corporate product. But then, the pivot. The injury that sidelined him was a blessing in disguise because it allowed the blue chipper to die and the Rock to be born. When he returned and joined the Nation of Domination, the energy shifted. It wasn't just wrestling anymore, it was theater. He stopped asking for the crowd's permission to be great and started demanding it. He turned heel, a villain, but he did it with so much charisma that the boos started sounding like cheers. He started talking in the third person. He started referring to people as candy asses. He would stand on the second rope, raise a single eyebrow, the people's eyebrow, and the entire arena would erupt. It was electric. It was the birth of a legend. Between 1997 and 2002, he didn't just participate in the business, he owned it. He was the bridge between the grit of the Attitude Era and the glitz of mainstream pop culture. That success in the ring was so blindingly bright that Hollywood couldn't look away. When he hosted Saturday Night Live, the world saw a man who wasn't just a wrestler, he was a comedic timing genius in a body built of granite. The transition seemed inevitable. The Mummy Returns gave him one line of Egyptian dialogue in a CGI scorpion body that looked like a PS2 character, yet it earned him over $5 million, a world record for a debut. He was the Scorpion King. He was the new Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the man who was going to save the action genre. But Hollywood is a different kind of ring. In the WWE, you can control the crowd with a microphone. In Hollywood, you're at the mercy of scripts, directors, and a standard that didn't know what to do with a 260-pound Samoan African-American powerhouse. Early on, the industry tried to shrink him. They told him he was too big. They told him to stop talking about wrestling. They told him he couldn't call himself The Rock. And for a while, he listened. He thinned out. He did family comedies like The Tooth Fairy and The Game Plan. He was making money, sure, but he was losing his soul. He was becoming a generic, smiling face on a movie poster. He felt the iciness of a career that was starting to plateau. He realized that by trying to fit in, he was failing himself. So, he made a choice that changed everything. He fired his entire team. He went back to the bulky, muscular physique. He reclaimed the name The Rock. He decided that if he was going to fail, he was going to fail as himself. This led to the Fast and Furious era, where he stepped into the role of Luke Hobbs and breathed life into a dying franchise. Fast 5 was the moment he became the biggest movie star on the planet. He was the franchise Viagra. He was the guy you called when you needed a billion-dollar hit. But this is where the cracks started to form. This is where the ego, the same ego that saved him from being broke, started to become a liability. He wasn't just an actor anymore, he was a brand. And a brand has rules. Hey, SLAMZONE family, just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the highs and lows of The Rock's career, please hit that like button right now. It really helps the algorithm show this video to more wrestling fans like you. Join our family by subscribing, and let's get back into the moment where everything started to go wrong. The one mistake that destroyed the career of Dwayne Johnson isn't a single event, but a philosophy: the refusal to lose. Reports began to surface that both he and Vin Diesel had clauses in their contracts that limited how much punishment they could take on screen. They literally counted the number of punches. If you can't lose a fight in a movie, you can't have stakes. If you can't have stakes, the audience stops caring. The candy-ass Instagram post in 2016, where he publicly blasted his male co-stars on Fast 8, was the first time the world saw the People's Champion act like a high school bully. The feud with Vin Diesel wasn't just two titans clashing, it was a PR nightmare that made The Rock look difficult, entitled, and thin-skinned. He walked away from the main franchise to do Hobbs and Shaw, and while it was a hit, the damage to his nice guy image was done. Then came Black Adam. This was his passion project, 10 years in the making. He didn't just want to be in a superhero movie, he wanted to be the DC Universe. He lobbied to have Black Adam removed from the Shazam movie because he felt Shazam wasn't a big enough character to share the screen with him. He wanted a showdown with Superman. He wanted to shift the hierarchy of power. But when the movie finally dropped in 2022, it wasn't a revolution, it was a thud. It flopped hard. Experts say it lost nearly $100 million. And instead of taking the L, The Rock did something that turned even his most loyal fans against him. He started spinning the numbers. He shared leaked documents trying to prove the movie was profitable. He blamed the change in leadership at Warner Brothers. He blamed everyone but himself. Suddenly, the People's Champion felt like a corporate suit. The man who used to connect with fans on a visceral level was now being exposed for telling weird, unnecessary lies. Why did he claim 3 separate times over 5 years that he was trying In-N-Out Burger for the first time? Why did he need to pretend he was a newbie to something so basic? It made him look manufactured. It made him look like a walking advertisement. The public began to see him as The Rock TM, a product designed by a committee, rather than Dwayne Johnson, the human being. His recent films, like Red One, have been met with eye rolls and mediocre reviews. The magic is fading. The audience is exhausted. You can feel the energy shifting in the industry. We love a comeback story, but we hate it when the person at the top forgets how they got there. The Rock's greatest strength was his ability to make us feel like he was one of us, even when he was a multimillionaire. But when you refuse to lose on screen, when you refuse to admit a movie failed, and when you get caught in a web of social media lies, you lose the people's title. The one mistake was believing his own hype so much that he thought he was bigger than the stories he was telling. He stopped being a wrestler, stopped being an actor, and became a production company that happens to have a face. But here is the twist, the moment you didn't see coming. Despite all the hate, despite the followers bleeding away, and despite the box office flops, there is a path back. We saw it recently when he returned to the WWE for the Bloodline storyline. For the first time in a decade, he leaned into the hate. He became the final boss. He stopped trying to be liked and started being the most hated man in the room again. And guess what? It worked. The fans were more engaged with him as a villain than they had been with him as a movie star in years. It proved that the real Dwayne Johnson, the one who isn't afraid to be the bad guy, the one who doesn't need to win every fight to be relevant, is still in there. So, where does that leave us? Is his career truly destroyed? In the traditional sense of being a beloved global superstar, maybe. The pedestal has definitely been knocked over. But in the world of entertainment, legends are made of sturdier stuff. He has the wealth, he has the history, and he still has that undeniable spark. The question is, can he let go of the ego? Can he stop being a brand and go back to being a person? The world is watching, and for the first time in a long time, we don't know the ending to the script. What a moment we are in. We are seeing a titan try to find his footing in a world that has grown tired of perfection. It's a lesson for all of us, no matter how high you go, never forget the $7. Never forget the Rocky sucks chants. Because those are the things that keep you human. Without them, you're just a statue on a walk of fame, waiting for the weather to wear you down. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today. This was a tough one to write because we all grew up loving The Rock, and seeing the cracks in the armor hurts. But that's why SLAMZONE exists, to talk about the things nobody else will. If you enjoyed this intense breakdown, please hit the like button, subscribe to SLAMZONE, and join the family for more intense wrestling and Hollywood breakdowns every single week. We appreciate every single one of you. Comment below, do you think The Rock can save his career? or is the final boss his last great act? We'll be reading every single one. Until next time, keep your head up, stay hungry, and never forget where you came from. We're out.